One of the most disruptive individuals in the workplace is the simp. Um, this is what some people call them nice guys, some guys call them soft males, but the simp is very disruptive to a workplace because of his passive nature, his inability to lead, and his inability to communicate effectively. One of the big problems with the simp, especially when in management, is that he lets the business run itself. He does not run the business. And when you have a person like this in your business, only thing you can have is chaos because people who run the business um, understand that everything needs to be directed and supervised. And your simp, he just lets things run itself. He's too passive. He's not assertive. He does not insist on making things meet a standard for quality. I've seen quite a few simps. I was in the workplace in real life and watching shows like Kitchen Nightmares, where you see these soft males. They just let things get out of control because, and especially in high pressure jobs like kitchens, you really have to be in charge and you really have to let people know that business is going to be done on the manager's terms and on company policy. But when you're dealing with a simp, he tends to let things go, he tends to let things pass, and he tends to not nip stuff in the bud. And then some of them are so weak that they abdicate power. And when you abdicate power in a workplace, you've pretty much lost control over that workplace. Any good manager will tell you that you have to let your employees know what the boundaries are, what the rules are from day one. But your average simp, what he does, what your soft male does, is that they let little things go, like women being late for work, or or people not showing up when they're supposed to. They don't really follow up on things, and when you let people get away with a little, eventually they start trying to get away with a lot, especially in the workplace. And the simp, he lets stuff go, and he does other things too. Like he's very passive aggressive, and he plays favorites. And whenever there's problems, he doesn't want to confront the problems. Another big problem with simp managers, especially simp managers, is that they are afraid of conflict. So they're afraid of supervising people and regulating people and letting them know how the workplace is going to go. What they do a lot of times is they'll delegate it and tell another employee to go talk to an employee, and that's a clear sign of weakness. You never delegate work to another manager, a supervisory work to another manager, because when you delegate supervisory work to another manager, you're basically saying that you're powerless. And in a management position, you as a manager have to assert your authority and let these employees know that you are the boss, you make all the rules, and that everybody has to follow the rules on your terms. The big problem with a lot of these simp managers is that they they hand over power. A lot of them, because a lot of them come from these single mother households, they hand it over to this woman. Usually a woman coworker there. They hand her all the power, and they have her do all the dirty work, so they won't look like a bad guy. And when they do this, they give her the power, and it's really bad in two ways. One is bad because it overwhelms this poor woman with responsibilities that are far beyond the scope of her position. And two, it just makes people not have respect for the authority of a manager. Um, when you have your simp in the workplace, he just that kills all the work morale because when he doesn't assert that confidence, he doesn't assert that authority, and nobody really feels like they have a direction in their work. And then there are other things he does because he's also very passive aggressive. Like he uses the power of his position to get even with people he doesn't like. Because another trick that these guys have is that they like to play favorites. Again, they don't understand that at work you have to be very objective in what you do and in supervising others. He doesn't understand this. So he makes work, again, an extension of his home life and his personal life. And he tries to get his emotional needs met in the workplace. And when you're dealing with a simp in the workplace, and then when he's trying to get his emotional needs met, he's making friends, he's negotiating and making deals with coworkers, and he's turning it into a fraternity house or a social clique. So it'll be him and his friends doing work, doing what they want to do, and the rest of the workplace falling into shambles. And the other employees who he doesn't like or he's kind of indifferent to, what happens is those people wind up becoming frustrated, they become aggravated, and they look at the workplace and their whole morale and their whole motivation for working goes down. I mean, an objective manager realizes that he has to motivate everyone and he has to get everybody to bring their best to the table. This guy will just pick his hand-picked clique of friends, and they'll be the ones doing the work that he likes to do, and other portions of the business around him will be collapsing. And when you deal with this type of workplace, it's a nightmare to be in. I've been in a couple of environments like that, and the only thing you can do in most cases is resign, or in some cases, if you try to hang in there, he's gonna start using his vendettas to get you fired. I mean, him and his clique are gonna get fired. And another big problem with the simp in the workplace is he again, this relates to his boundary issues because he doesn't understand that you have to set boundaries in the workplace. Is that he likes to cross these lines, especially with women. He likes to date women in the workplace, and he likes to date his coworkers, and he likes to flirt with his coworkers. This guy, um, with the flirting and the dating, sets himself up for a situation where he winds up in a prone position for sexual harassment, and he doesn't understand how this can be used against him. And when you're dealing with him, and he also plays favorites because again, most cases he comes from a single mother household. So what he does is he tries to play favorites, especially with women. He'll play women against men, and he'll harshly discipline men and let women get away with a lot of stuff. He makes excuses for women who don't do work in the workplace, and if he has male friends, he'll make excuses for them too. Um, he has no idea of what leadership entails. He may have a college degree in management. He may have an advanced degree, like a master's degree in management, because I've seen a guy I was working with, he had a master's degree, but again, these social traits superseded his objectivity and his leadership ability. And it led to a very, very dysfunctional workplace, a very dysfunctional environment. And when you have these type of men, and you have a lot of these men in the workplace, they're not very good at managing people, and they're not good at managing situations. They're not good at being diplomatic and objective and keeping the workplace towards a professional standard because they always let personal issues overshadow what the goals of the organization are. And the goals of the organization are the most important thing that have to be focused on, and making sure that company policy is followed. Yes, you understand this person is going through things and has issues, and you want to settle these issues in a way that keeps the company from being harmed. I mean, your ultimate goal is to protect your business from dysfunctional behavior, but many of these managers, especially these simp managers, what they do is they create situations that lead to organizations having to deal with things like lawsuits and even workplace violence and escalations because he, again, has no problem solving skills. He has no critical thinking skills. I mean, yeah, he's got a college degree, but he doesn't know how to apply any of the knowledge that he has. And that's also been a big problem that I've seen with these type of guys, that they really don't know how to solve problems. They don't know how to apply knowledge. They have a lot of knowledge inside of them, a lot of them very well educated, very, very articulate, but they're not good problem solvers. And that's because they take everything so personal. They don't understand that passionate people can still remain professional. They then still remain objective. They think that everything is personal. They think that because they're personally involved that they're passionate, but it's not. It's two separate things. Um, when you have your simp manager in place, he's not. He's also not a very good organizer. I mean, he's all over the place. Everything's emotional with him. He reacts to things. He doesn't respond. And there's a big difference between reacting and responding. A person who reacts just jumps off the handle. A person who responds takes their time and meticulously plans how they're going to solve the problem. They're gonna listen to the person first. This guy, he doesn't listen because when you're emotional, you don't really listen to anyone. But when you're logical, you tend to listen to people and hear what they have to say, then offer a solution. This guy, he's not solution oriented. He wants to pacify people, and because he has the whole objective, because he doesn't get his emotional needs met. Everything with him is about making people happy, not getting the job done. And you want to satisfy customers, you want to satisfy people. That's part of business, but it's not your job to make people happy. Happy is an intangible that varies from person to person, and this is what the simp manager does not understand. He tries to pacify his employees at the expense of his customers, and that's another thing that he likes to do because he wants to see people happy. And because these coworkers are his friends, he wants to make them happy first and puts their needs first over the needs of the customer. And that creates a very, very hostile environment for customers, especially when you're in retail or customer service. It creates the ideology and the mindset that the customer is not right, the customer doesn't matter, the customer has no value. And this is what this guy does. He puts his employees' needs, his friends, not the employees, not all the employees. He puts his friends' needs over the needs of the business and over the needs of the customer. And that's why this guy it's never good to have him in especially any type of management position because he has no real understanding of boundaries. He has no real understanding of how the world works and how to socialize in the world of work. His problem solving skills are very poor. His planning skills are very poor. And his organizational skills are very poor because he doesn't really take the time to break things down and delegate and do things in a way where everything can be done in an effective manner. He doesn't take things apart and then put them back together. He's bad at deconstruction and organization. He has very little. He has very poor vision. That's another problem with a simp. He has very poor vision. He's very short term. He's not a long term thinker. Um, Usually, a good manager can see something about 2, 3 years down the road, even 4 or 5 years down the road. You can see what direction he wants to go in. When you're a simp manager, what he does is he can only see for today, and he can only see about appeasing what it is right now, and that's bad for business. When you only thinking about today, you can't focus on tomorrow. And when you have a manager, he has to have a vision for what he wants to do and where these things are going to go in the next 3 to 5 years. Every one of his actions today have an impact on tomorrow, and you don't get that with a simp. When you have a simp in a management position, a soft male or beta male, you can call it. There are multiple names for these type of guys. Nice guys, because they are very needy, they're very insecure, and they don't have the self confidence to go into a workplace and set a goal, meet a goal, and accomplish a goal. And they don't have the discipline and the commitment to follow through on things. The minute something gets hard, these are the first guys to head for the door, and they're the first ones to give up. Whereas the other men are gonna push. They're gonna say, "Look, this has to get done. I need to do it. I can't worry about offending people or hurting people's feelings, because what's really gonna hurt them is this business being out of business. And so I need them to understand that we all need to be on the same page. I need to communicate with them that this is the goal that we have to accomplish, and this is how we're going to accomplish the goal." Um, that's what a good manager is going to do. that, and he's going to make them understand that everybody's actions on the team have a part in helping everybody helps in meeting the goal for what we're trying to do. How everybody's role is important, and without if one person falls apart, the whole thing falls apart. So everybody has to understand their role. And when you have a bad simp manager in place, he only focuses on himself and his clique, not the other people, and they don't see themselves. They don't see their role and how they contribute to the organization. And everybody has to see their role and how they contribute to the organization in order for them to be effective in meeting an organization's goals. Good manager has to understand how to delegate, and he has to be able to go back to those people and ask them what they're doing, or is their work meeting a standard? Is this what we need? We all need to be on the same page. Now, you don't get that with a simple manager because he's afraid of conflict. He's afraid of telling people this is wrong, this is messed up. I need you to do this a certain way, or even again because he's afraid of conflict, he's afraid of even showing these people what is needed and what is required. Um, when you're like that, you're not going to be an effective employee. You're really going to be a mediocre employee, and you can. A lot of these guys, they skirt by using deflections and shaming tactics and playing the victim and finding somebody else to blame. But eventually, sooner or later, their career is stalled, and eventually people start seeing them for who they truly are. They're just mediocre workers who just can't bring themselves to push themselves to the next level. And if you have these guys in your business for too long, eventually they put your business directly out of business because their work is very sloppy, their work is very mediocre, and they keep making excuses. When things are going bad, these are the guys, the first thing they do is they make an excuse and say it's somebody else's fault or it's something else in the company. These are the guys, they never come to you with a solution if you're in business of how to fix something. And because they're so busy trying to hide everything and run away from problems, they never come up with a solution. These guys, they're not willing to take on conflict or confront conflict or to deal with conflict. Um, I don't understand how these guys go into management, but there are a lot of them in management right now. If you look at many companies like DC Comics with Dan Dido, a couple of other ones, you see this dysfunctional pattern of management where they blame people. And the same thing with Warner Bros. Movie Studios, again, another example of it. And they have several prime examples of it on Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares back in the day when the show was on the air. The scenes with Amy's Baking Company clearly shows you what happens when you put a simp in management or a simp in business ownership position. That's a show I highly recommend because it really shows you what happens when you put a simp in a management position. Um, how he delegates, how he hides, how he deflects, and how some of them play the victim, how some of them use the shaming tactics, and how they never come up front and say, "I need help." I need help. I need everybody on the team to work together and to work towards the goal. Um, these guys like to cut corners. Um, they like to do things when they're cheap. They they never count the cost. I mean, when you have a simp in management, he's always looking to cut a corner because he always wants more money to trick off on, especially women at work. He's the kind of guy to give women raises and give them extra hours and stuff and try to find a way to pay them. And he's a killer. He'll kill your business. And there's quite a few of them in American business. And every time you see a simp in a workplace, you're going to get chaos. You're going to get dysfunction. You're going to get low worker morale. And these guys, what any HR professional or any business owner needs to understand is these guys talk a very good game, but when you watch their actions, it's not consistent. You don't see the goals in place. You don't see this guy meeting any goals. You don't see a growth pattern when he's in the workplace. You never see anything getting done. All you see in a lot of cases are frustrated coworkers, A lot of turnover because these guys, they just aggravate you to the point where you just want to leave. There's really poor communication because this guy is also he's a horrible communicator. He doesn't talk very well. Um, he doesn't get his point across very effectively. And when he's in the workplace, he's very ambiguous. When he's delegating things, he'll just tell somebody to do something, but he won't tell them why or how. Or especially with new employees, he's very bad at leadership. He's very bad at motivating people. He thinks threatening people is how you motivate people. He doesn't encourage. He doesn't teach because that teaching is also a part of leadership and supporting people. He's not a good supporter. A lot of these guys, they abdicate. They just go into their office, close the door, and you don't see them for days on end. This was the way it was at the last position I had 5 years ago in the library. This guy would just disappear. He's supposed to be a supervisor. He delegates all of the management duties to a woman, and then he just disappears. And I also saw it on Kitchen Nightmares too. That's called abdication, and that doesn't really help you in having an effective organization. And meanwhile, all these problems are piling up, and then he's just sweeping more and more stuff under the rug. And this is what the simp does. He just sweeps stuff under the rug until it becomes so chaotic that nobody can do anything about it. And in many businesses, especially small businesses, that type of thing, you don't know that the problems are there. A lot of these business owners, they hire this guy to manage a department or to manage a place of business, and they don't know that these problems are there because he's hiding them because he's afraid of conflict. He doesn't want to solve the problem because he's afraid he'll be held accountable for the problem, not knowing that accountability and problems are the same, are two different things. And you're hired as a manager really to solve problems. And any job, any management, any job, not just management, you're hired to solve problems. Customer service guy, his job is to solve the problem of meeting the customer's needs. Salesperson, his or her job is to solve the problem of selling products to the customer. And even a manager's job, his whole job is solving problems. But this guy, his whole culture, his whole way of life is avoiding problems. His whole culture is running away from a problem, hiding problems, and that's why you really don't want this type of individual in your business because you can't run away from a problem. You have to confront problems and you have to take responsibility for problems. And those are two things that he doesn't like to do. And when things get super bad in our workplace, and usually it usually takes years for it to hit the mushroom stage. What he does is he resigns and then he heads to another company. And I've seen that too. I've seen that with the Gap. I've seen it with J. Crew and Brooks Brothers. That CEO, Mickey Drexler, he ran from company to company. After he ran the Gap into the ground, went to J. Crew, and then he went to another company. Went to Brooks Brothers, and we see the same products, and then you get the same excuses. And you see it in several other companies. I've seen it in other companies too when I'm reading about them. These guys went from company to company making excuses, hiding, hiding, hiding. They wait till the problems get too bad, and then they leave, and then the poor business owner is left with a mess, especially in a corporate situation. And a lot of small business owners get left with this huge mess that they have to clean up. And the conclusion with this video, what I'm trying to get people to understand is when you have to really watch who you hire, and you have to really listen when they talk. One of the big problems a lot of companies do is they look at the resume, they look at this guy and go, oh, he's so great, he's got such and such degree from such and such Ivy League university, but the guy has no problem solving skills, he has no reasoning skills, he has no people skills, he has no interpersonal skills. And I saw that at Strive with their director a couple about 2000. And you have to really watch who you hire because these guys, the simp lives for likes to have these high credentials, but again, he's a big talker. He says a lot, but he doesn't do much. And when you look at the track record of these guys, that's what pretty much shows you who they really are. They're clearly out of their depth, and you really can't go by their interview. You have to go by their track record. Can they set goals? Can they meet goals? Do they have a track record of provable goals that you can um, just put your finger on and say that we're done? And these guys, they just can't get it done because they're too busy taking everything personal to focus on business. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.